All right, so in this presentation, we're going to talk about the current challenges in public administration. So we've talked about a number of topics over the course of the semester, and now I'm just going to wrap up the semester by talking about what challenges face public administrators now that need to be addressed. So, the current state of public administration is characterized by considerable unrest caused by many factors. Our state and local governments face a lot of fiscal stress. The national government, too, of course, but the national government, as we talked about throughout the semester, the national government has most of the resources, and the state and local governments provide most of the services. So, fiscal stress really hits hard with your local and state governments. Um, we also uh, we also have natural and man-made disasters, and the responses to those natural and man-made disasters that largely fall on government to handle. And we have a problem with a loss of faith in public service. We um, we have a lack of confidence in government services, a lack of confidence in our elected officials, a lack of confidence in really the system. So, and these things are related too. So, your ability to respond to problems and solve policy problems is affected by not having the resources, and the loss of faith in public service leads to people not voting for levies for decades, and therefore not raising the funding for their local services. A loss in tax base to provide services at the local and state level, and all of these things kind of feed into each other. That government has a tough time providing necessary services. Uh, People lose faith in the government to provide those services, then they don't support uh, the government providing those services, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So there's a lot of unrest, and there's a lot of trying to do more with less in government services. And the reality is that it is desirable but difficult to maintain various features of administrative practice simultaneously. Throughout the semester, we've talked about accountability and efficiency being important. We've also talked about the democratic process being important, and participation among citizens in decision making in their local government level, especially. So, uh, you know, promoting efficiency while also getting democratic participation among key stakeholders can be a difficult thing sometimes. A lot of times, the democratic process of decision making uh, in your local governments, when you think about having um, public forums and times during meetings for the public to raise concerns, that makes decision making less efficient, but it does make it more democratic. Maintaining performance standards, strong leadership, these challenges sometimes conflict with each other. And we're trying to do all of these things in providing government services at once. We're trying to hold people accountable. We're trying to get strong leaders. We're trying to increase democratic participation in the process, but we're also trying to be efficient and have high performance standards, and these things can be difficult to maintain. There's also a challenging social and governmental environment. Some things that get highlighted: our balance of trade when we're talking about the national level. We don't export goods the way that the United States used to, and there's various arguments for how good or bad of a thing that is. But we're largely a service sector economy now, and we import more than we export, and some argue that that's a bad thing for our economic stability. Uh, you know, there's been this argument that there's a knowledge explosion. So, how does that, how does, how do things like the internet and how do things like, the different resources you have on the internet have, how do those have an effect? That increases in education and awareness of things should be a good thing, and in some cases you can point to where people gain access to information, you have positive things that happen. But on the other hand, I put a question mark next to knowledge explosion, because the knowledge explosion and the resources we have has also led to the spread of misinformation about our government services, and misinformation about various topics that people don't understand as false. So you've you've got definitely an issue there, um, that government needs to somehow adjust to, and that's related to the next couple of things too: social networking, and other technological change. Governments have to try to adjust to the things that have changed in society in the last couple of decades. Always technological change, and then of course there's war. There's war across the world, that are always it's always a changing environment, uh, and what role the United States plays in those things at a national level, with international politics, and the chronic fiscal stress issue for governments, that I mentioned earlier, with state and local governments, that resources are not widely available for a lot of things. So there's adjustments that have to be made to still provide quality services. So there's a lot of things that change, and these change all the time. These conditions are changing all of the time, and things to consider that are challenging for the federal government, the state governments, and local governments. Um, Something worth noting here, post-industrialism, as I mentioned with the balance of trade, post-industrialism, social and economic phenomenon emerging in many previously industrialized nations, characterized by a relative decline in the importance of production, labor, and durable goods, and an increase in importance of knowledge, new technologies, and the provision of services and leisure time. If you think about what we used to do in a lot of the country, we have a lot of manufacturing, and the decline in manufacturing has happened over decades, and we don't produce as much, and when we don't produce as much, arguably that hurts the economy, but it's really a change. It might not necessarily be something that has a net negative impact, but it's just a change in how we're structured, and this impacts how government is able to operate with private industry. So if you think about the things that we talk about in past decades, um, strong manufacturing, producing many of the world's goods, and now there's more of a stress on knowledge. So highly educated people developing new technologies. Some of the most remarkable technological advancements that happen in the U.S. Um, you know, Software technologies, computer technologies, all these things where the machines themselves are not built in the U.S., but all the technologies are developed here. That's become increasingly important, and also services and leisure time. So industries like the tourism industry and the service sector have grown much more than manufacturing, and so we don't produce as much, and this just changes the way that uh, the economy is structured. The photo here is from Sandusky, Ohio, where I'm from. Uh, the top photo is the uh, American Crayon Company uh, in Sandusky in like the late 1800s, and then that's it. The bottom photo is the American Crayon Company in Sandusky, maybe 10 years ago or so, before they tore it down. They tore down the building. You know, once a booming manufacturing plant of crayons, then sits empty for decades before being demolished. It's just shows some of the change, and we see this all over what we know as the Rust Belt, is old factories that have been sitting empty for decades. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to other challenges relates to the fire service. Um, we develop new technologies. We have changing cars on the road. We have more electric cars. And electric cars uh, uh, have different problems than gasoline cars. So um, one of the issues is there's a lot of energy in those electric car batteries, and when they catch on fire, they're very difficult to put out, and you have to attack the fire in a different way than you attack a fire from a gasoline powered car. So the way that this relates to public administration is that we need the resources to train people working in the fire service. We need to train firefighters how to deal with these technologies, and to uh, uh, continue training and education and giving them the resources to learn about how these things work as the technology develops, so that they can do their jobs more effectively. And the general public doesn't think about what kind of problem this is, and doesn't think about the resources that the fire service needs to study this problem and to handle this problem. But it is, a good example of how new technology can present challenges to public administrators. So be sure to check out the short video posted about this issue too. And that is all I have. So thank you.